Hello and welcome back. So in yesterday's video I showed you how to make this simple little hovercraft. In the video before that I showed you how to use the stencil tool in Blender. Today I'm going to dive back into the stencil tool and show you some more features and just a quick trick to make it more efficient in the future. So let's start off by texturing this model. I'm going to open up two extra panels. I'm going to change this to the UV image editor. And I'll change this to the node editor. And then when I'm in edit mode, I'm just going to make sure I have everything selected and then hit U to create a smart UV mapping. And I'll just give it an island of about 0.03. Alright, and so now you can see it basically took a knife and cut along each edge and flattened out the whole model. Now we can create an image. We'll just call this Hovercraft diffuse, and I want to just make it like a metallic gray sort of color, like that. Now if we go into texture paint mode, you can see it's still not being mapped to the object. So to do that, we're going to go into cycles render. We're going to use nodes, and then within the node editor, hit Shift A, add an image texture, and then just select Hovercraft diffuse. Alright, so now you can see it's being mapped to the object. And now we want to use the stencil tool, and I'm just going to try to paint some rust onto this. So I found a rust texture online. And this isn't going to work exactly the way you would expect it to. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So go to, if you can't see this window, hit T to open the tools window. And then go to textures, new. And then over here in the texture panel, click on brush texture. And then we're going to open. And I'm just going to use that black and white rust texture that I found online. And then to use it as a stencil, once you have the brush loaded up, click on brush mapping and change that to stencil. And now you can see we have this image floating over our model, and we can resize it with Shift and right mouse button. And let's say we just want to start painting over it and just paint some orange rust onto that wing. I'm just going to change this to like an orange color, something like that. And then we just paint that on there. And now you can see that looks nothing like rust. What I want it to do is if we resize this for like the black spots right here, I want that to be the rust that's getting painted on. But what it's doing is it's painting on everything that's white, and it's also painting on everything that's black as a solid black color. So we need to do something with this image to make it more useful as a stencil. So I'm going to go back to my desktop, open up a program called Krita. Just start a new file. I have it open because I did it once as a practice. Alright, so I'm just going to close out of this. So open Krita. And if you don't have Krita, it's completely free to download. It's basically a lightweight version of Photoshop. It's a lot faster than GIMP. And it's got lots of nifty features. So now I'm just going to open up this black and white texture within Krita. And I just want to take everything that's white and delete it from the image. So I'm going to click on the similar color selection tool. And then I'm just going to click in some white space. And now that's selected all the white color on this image. And I'm going to hit Control X to remove it. And so now you can see there's these gray and white squares in the background. That's representing the alpha. So basically all we have left in this picture is black and gray, and then some transparency. So now we're going to export this. Click on File, Export, and I'll just send it to the desktop as rust.png. Make sure you don't choose JPEG or anything like that, because it's actually going to take the transparency and make it white. We need to make sure that the transparency is saved. So rust.png, save. Okay. And now once we go back to Blender, let's just open up rust.png. And you can see that changed our stencil. It looks a lot different now. And basically all we have is the areas that we actually want to paint. So if I just paint this on here like that, it still doesn't quite look right. It doesn't really look like rust. It's still painting black when we just want the rust color. So we're actually just going to go back here, hit Control A to select everything, and then go into Filter, Adjust, and Invert. So that basically just makes everything either white or transparent. Export that one more time, and I'll just call it rust2.png. So for the third time, open up the image, and now if we go back to Stencil, try it one more time, and that's starting to look a lot better. I mean that my color selection was pretty bad, but it's the pattern that we want. That looks much more rust-like. So I'm just going to hit 7 to go into top view. Shift and right click to scale that down a little bit. Right mouse button to drag it over. And then I want to make this a little bit darker. And now I'm just going to sweep across the whole image. And I mean, it's not perfect, but that looks a lot more like rust probably than anything you could do just by drawing by hand. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. Same thing on the bottom. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. So one thing you just have to make sure is that you save the actual image. Sadly, with Blender, the UV mapped image and the object are not linked. In 3ds Max, it would automatically link everything together, and then when you save it, it would also export the image. Sadly, Blender, if you close it right now, you would literally lose the image. Like, it's just not saved at all. Even though you saved the model, Blender doesn't link the image to it. So make sure you save as image or save a copy. And I'll just name it Hovercraft Diffuse. Save. And now if we go back into Unity, now we can just drag that ship into the game and drag the new texture onto it, like that. Alright, I think that looks okay. It would look a lot better if we added a normal map. And while we're here, let's look at that material. Hovercraft Diffuse. We have slots for albedo, metallic, normal map, height map, occlusion, emission, and more. The more images that we create for each of these slots, the more realistic we can make it. And just as an example, I'm just going to drag something onto this metallic slot. And basically what that's doing is it's looking at this image, and it's taking the brighter areas and making them look more metallic, and it's taking the darker areas and making them look less metallic. So I think that was a bad example because it basically just made the image look darker. So let's try this one more time. Hovercraft. Let's try this one. Yeah, that looks bad too. But essentially, what you should do is follow this exact same process where we created the UV map. Just create another texture, and then anything on the model that you want to look metallic, you can paint that white, and then anything you don't want to look metallic, you can paint that black, and then import that as the metallic map, and Unity will use that in the shader to draw the model differently. So we might create some normal maps or some height maps later, but for now I think I'll cut the video off here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.